Hello everyone, welcome to LolKing's Pick of the Week. My name is Shakrez, and each week we'll be highlighting a champion that we think is really strong in the current meta, whether its popularity comes from ranked games, competitive play, or even both. Today we look at Kha'zix, played in the jungle. Kha'zix is not really seen in pro play nowadays, apart from a game here and there, but his popularity spiked with recent buffs in the most recent patches. Let's start with his setup. For runes, attack damage marks, armor seals, magic resistance glyphs, and attack damage quintessences. Pretty simple and straightforward rune page. If you're a more advanced user or have those extra rune pages, consider taking flat cooldown reduction on your glyphs. Armor penetration is also an option for marks, but they won't be as good for jungle clearing. For masteries, you'll want to take 12-18-0 with Thunderlord's Decree as your keystone mastery. Now, Kha'zix is an assassin, and Thunderlords gives him exactly what he needs: extra burst. You can run Strength of Ages like all the other junglers, but it's honestly not as good on Kha'zix, as he really needs to guarantee those kills. For skill order, you want to max your Q, Taste Their Fear, first, as it's your main damage ability. Damage goes up per rank, and mana costs don't increase, so you really want to be getting this first. After that, your W, Void Spikes, are maxed second, because, damage. Leap is maxed last as it's mainly a utility tool, and you really need damage from Q and W. As for your evolutions, you should look to evolve Taste Their Fear at level 6 for increased range on the skill and on Kha'zix auto attacks. Not to mention his Q will also deal tons of damage when hitting isolated targets. At level 11, you should look to evolve your Leap in order to get extra range and a cooldown reset whenever you kill the enemy champion. Your last evolution at level 16 will usually be your ultimate, Void Assault, as you'll gain an extra cast and 2 extra seconds of stealth per cast, which makes you much more annoying to deal with in teamfights. However, evolving Void Spikes to increase slow, damage, and healing to Kha'zix can be an option as well. Now for the item build. Kha'zix doesn't really have a set item build path. You want to get Warrior as your first item and obviously Boots. Boots will usually be Swiftness for added mobility or Lucidity for lower cooldowns. From there, most of it is really up to you and how the game is going. Yumu's is a fantastic item that gives Kha'zix extra mobility and tons of attack damage and armor penetration, while Maw of Malmortius is simply the best magic resistance item for Kha'zix, as it will give him a good mix of offensive and defensive stats, and a magic damage shield to prevent bursting. After those main core items, it's entirely situational. If you want to build more like an assassin, items like Duskblade and Ravenous Hydra will fit in nicely and allow you to dispatch squishies in a blink of an eye. If you want to build him more like a bruiser while still dishing out quite some damage, Sterak's will give you some tankiness along with a resistance item like Randuin's Omen or Guardian Angel. Now that we've looked over his setup, let's talk about how he fares in different stages of the game. In the early game, you want to focus on getting past your first clear and look to build towards your warrior enchantment. Getting an early Hunter's Potion can help a ton, as Kha'zix is squishy and doesn't have much sustain. You should obviously look for ganks whenever possible, but you're not the best ganker, so focus on lanes that have crowd control, so you can just be there to dish out the damage. Look out for lanes that are low and or overextended. Those should be your main ganking priorities. You don't always need to leap in immediately. Try to close the gap by running up to your opponent and hitting them with Void Spikes. Once they blow Flash, you can just leap after him. In other situations, you should wait for your laner to set up crowd control before going in. From mid-game onwards, you should already have 2-3 items. Kha'zix excels at dueling and small skirmishes. You want to mostly avoid full-blown teamfights, as it will be harder to get isolated targets. In the late game, you should keep looking for opportunities to find isolated targets and burst them down before they can run to their teammates. You mainly excel outside of 5v5 teamfights, so keep that in mind. That said, in both skirmishes and teamfights, you should look to go for the squishier targets. By now, you'll already have your leap evolved, so you'll be able to get resets on it once you grab a kill. That should be your goal every time, as you can easily get caught out of position if you have no reset to escape. Lastly, for some tips. The most important thing on Kha'zix is to always save your leap until you really need to use it. Don't start off ganks by leaping in, as then the opponent will just flash out. As mentioned before, try to close the gap without it and hold on to it as long as possible. Once the opportunity presents itself and the opponent flashes, you leap to close the distance and finish the job. Other than that, clearing the jungle with Kha'zix is slightly different. Since you do extra damage with your Q when targets are isolated, you'll often want to dispatch the smaller jungle minions before killing the big ones. This makes your clears a bit faster and thus healthier. Lastly, remember to use your Void Assault efficiently. When you go in and can't get out, activate it to roam around the outskirts of a teamfight and reach your desired target. It's likely that the opponents will want to shut you down, so breaking vision is important so you don't get squashed like a bug. That's going to be all for today. Remember to leave a like if you enjoy the content, and I hope you guys enjoyed this pick of the week.